Okay, well,
Am I in a situation that I will die if I don't eat you for some
No,
reason?
no. I'm just saying, like, if I'm in a
No, man.
situation, like, I feel
No,
bad for
the
these
answer is
eaters
gonna be no.
because I'm
No.
just
Why do
gonna
you
go
feel
into
bad for cannibals? I don't get it. They're not good people.
Hello and welcome to the movie podcast review of Bones and All. My name is Daniel. I am one of your hosts today, and joining alongside me is Shahbaz
Hello and good day.
and Anthony.
I'm so excited to talk about Bones and All. Bones and All.
I almost said it when. Oh my god!
Are you Hannibal Lecter?
That's a secret. We can't say anything about this film. We get
What?
into our review.
It's a secret.
We
it's
can't talk
based
about
on
this
a
movie
book,
at
though.
all. We can't talk about this movie at all. Just get to the point of the film, but don't talk about it.
It's funny, you know, when we were when I was saying the title, when the way Anthony said it, I almost thought he was saying like Bonesaw is ready.
Yeah,
like that's what I
definitely
thought
thought
he
that
was
too.
saying.
I literally was gonna
So
say
I was
that
like
too.
Bones and all. Like it doesn't sound as cool to say that. Shay, how are you doing?
You know, I'm doing great. Speaking of this title, we've been using this title as like as almost I don't even know how to describe it. We've been using
Like a sentence enhancer.
like a sentence enhancer. Really been like, man, it's just bones and all. Like, I've just been bones and all today. It's kind of how I feel. I've just been bones and all. You know.
Bones and all in.
Yeah.
Anthony, how are you doing today?
It's been a crazy month. I would say that this is, the last few months have only been more and more and more, and here we are back at it again. Another review, another interview. It's just been this wild ride we've been on, and it's a lot of stuff has come out.
It has been, yeah, but it's been a lot of fun. We have a lot of incredible episodes, a lot of incredible interviews and reviews on the movie podcast feed right now. Because as always, you can catch a brand new episode of our show every single Monday and watch out throughout the week for all of our reviews and our interviews on all the latest movies and series. If you want to write in to be part of the show, please write into hello@themoviepodcast.ca. Please also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Letterboxd, wherever you want to follow us. We're called we're the movie podcast at the movie podcast on all of them. So you'll be able to find us everywhere. If you want to see clips from our interviews, clips from our shows, there's so much of us on there that you're going to start to get sick of us. But you're not, because you're going to love it so much. So you're going to forget about being sick of us. I'm going to stop talking about it, but please, yeah, go check that all out. We have a really great time on there, as well as Discord. So if you have Discord, if you want to keep the conversation going, episodes of the movie podcast may end, but the conversation doesn't have to stop there. So please join us on Discord. We have a really great time on there talking about movies. We're talking about Wakanda Forever right now. We're talking about Andor. We're talking about everything that's going on. So make sure you join us on Discord for a great time. And you're seeing this on YouTube right now. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. Let us know if you're a fan of this film. I think we're going to be a fan of this film because it has our close and personal friend Timothée Chalamet in it. But we're going to talk about it all very, very soon, because the movie today that we are talking about is called Bones and All. This is going to be releasing from Warner Brothers Pictures on November 23rd. And I want to say thank you to Warner Brothers for inviting us to watch this movie. Now, I do also want to give a trigger warning because of the subject matter of this film. If that is something that makes you uncomfortable when it deals with blood and cannibalism, which is, I think, the first time we've really spoken about that here on the movie podcast. So, just want to give you a warning for that, because we won't be spoiling anything in the we won't be spoiling anything in this movie, but we will be talking a little bit more in depth in it, and that of course has to deal with what goes on in this movie, which I think surprised all of us going into it. But Bones and All is directed by Luca Guadagnino, and it stars Taylor Russell, Timothée Chalamet, Michael Stuhlbarg, André Holland, Chloë Sevigny, David Gordon Green, and Mark Rylance. And like I said, it's going to be releasing on November 23rd. Anthony, please tell us what it's all about.
Based on the novel by Camille DeAngelis, Bones and All is a story of first love between Maren and a young woman learning how to survive on the margins of society, and Lee, an intense disenfranchised drifter, as they meet and join together for a 1,000-mile odyssey across America. But despite their best efforts, all roads lead back to their terrifying past and to a final stand that will determine whether their love can survive their otherness.
Thank you very much for that, Anthony. Like I said, a little bit of a trigger warning coming up for what we will be talking about. Shay, I would love for you to start us off with your first reactions to this film and what you thought about going into it, because you and I went into this a very rare way, and that is not a pun. we went into it in a way that we didn't see the trailer, we did not see the synopsis, we didn't know anything about what this movie was about going into it.
Yeah, I think the most that you and I kind of knew going into this movie was it stars our good friend T Shells, T Shells by the T Shore. You know, like he's in this movie, Timothée Chalamet. So we were very excited because he's a friend of the show. He doesn't know it yet, but he will one day. Um, and that's kind of all I knew. That and the title of this film, and obviously who the director was. So I was like, oh, director of Call Me by Your Name. I love that movie. It is such an innocent, beautiful film. No one is eating people in that movie. And then this movie kind of starts off and I don't get know what to expect or to kind of have a vibe with. But it almost starts off kind of like a very like 80s serious, you know, high school drama. And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And this isn't a spoiler if you haven't like seen the trailer. If you've seen the trailer, the opening sequence is kind of what you're seeing in that trailer. And you know, you get Taylor Russell's character hanging out with her friends, and from that point, I won't say exactly what it is. From that point, though, the movie just elevates itself so graphically, and it goes to a point where I had absolutely no warning prior. I had no idea what was about to happen. All I remember is Daniel, you and I. If you can leap out of a chair without actually physically leaping out of a chair, that is, I think, how I would describe what we did. We were we were like 2/3 off our chair, just kind of being like, "Holy shit! What the hell did we just watch right now?" I think there was an absolute, you know, I think our faces were flushed. We were immediately like, this, and I think it was the sound design that did it for me. It wasn't even the scene that I was looking at, it was the sound of the scene that made me feel so absolutely, um, and I use this as a compliment, disgusted. Because for
Yeah,
the
I mean, it was
next,
the scene too, because
it was a
those
scene too,
visuals, I was
absolutely
just
the
like,
scene too.
oh my
But
god.
Daniel,
Yeah.
if you and I had closed our eyes, we would have been able to see it without seeing it. Like that's how the
Yes.
sound was. And
Well,
then
I think we could say what happened, right? Because that part is in the trailer.
it is somewhat in the trailer, yeah. But let's just say we get to understand what this movie is about in terms of cannibalism. We get to kind of see that, oh, Taylor Russell's character, she likes to eat people. She likes the blood. She likes the bones and all. You know, she's all about the meat of a human being. And you know, I'm not so good personally. Like the trigger warning really helps me, but I'm not so good with cannibalism. I'm not sure if people are. If you're a cannibal listening to this show, write in. Let us know why. But beyond that, I would say that I immediately start to feel kind of sick. I'll be honest, I started to feel like, oh my god, like I felt like the air was leaving the room, and for me, it was a really tough experience that first 20 minutes. Shortly after, kind of got I snapped back into it, and I started to just watch the movie and embrace what it was about and kind of get what it was about. Um, and I really did like this movie. I have issues with it for sure, but I really did like this movie.
It's funny, and I don't typically comment on how we are in movies, but I definitely felt like it was a very visceral reaction for you,
Yeah.
because I kept looking at you and you were just like turned a certain way, and I've never seen you like that in a movie
No.
either. And again, this movie kind of lures you, like Bones and All lures you into a certain direction, and then when you get there and you see like, okay, Taylor Russell's character is a cannibal. She's called in this film, they're referred to as an eater. There's different people in this world that eat people, and that's who they are. And it kind of reminded me a little bit of like vampires, because they were like, they could like smell each other. They know when another one is. There's like a smell that they I guess they give off. But there's nothing in this movie that feels supernatural. And I think that's what really threw me off its scent while watching this movie, because I thought this movie was like this a love story between these two characters. I had no idea there was a layer of cannibalism involved too. And it's such a weird to say, it's such a sweet and endearing story, and then you're reminded what these characters do. And I think Luca's direction in this, it really is that it it throws you off, because it's like, here's a sweet beautiful tone, here's this beautiful imagery, and then here's the most twisted story that you're probably going to see in the theaters this year. Anthony, jump on in.
Yeah, this film, it at the root of it, it is a love story. It is a teenage drama between, two lovebirds. They just have this uniqueness to them that, yeah, they do eat people. And I think that's where they definitely connect, and I guess there's like this huge community of them, because the more you get through this film, the more you interact with these eaters. Um, Watching the trailer, I didn't get like I didn't know they were cannibals. I thought they were. It gave me vibes of this like natural born killers, these lovebirds that kind of go on this journey, and then maybe have to kill things. Didn't know that they had to survive, because that is
Right.
they need to do this because they will not survive. Food sustains them, but they need human flesh, like they say in
God.
Lord of the Rings. But
Right. Man
man
flesh.
flesh. But I was shocked. Yeah, that sequence. I looked over to Shay, and Shay was almost throwing up in his popcorn bag. I was like, wow, I didn't expect it, because it comes off very sensual, and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe she's
Yes.
she's she's into this, is like this sexual connection between the two. No, 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 it's just some bitey
She's hungry.
bitey. She's hungry.
Yeah. She was just playing with her food,
And that's what I love about this film, because it is grounded in the sense that it's this love story, but there's this overarching thing that they have to do that puts it beyond this teenage drama. It goes down this road, and I think Luca did a fantastic job having this story. And I haven't read the book, but having this story take place in rural America. So they go through like Virginia,
Yeah.
Kentucky,
In
so
the 80s
in the
too.
80s. So it's very, a lot of the places they venture to are farmlands, and we'll say not the most habitable places. And it just plays into the whole feeling of who these characters are, because a lot of the places they live in, they're dirty, they're almost like nomads, right? They're moving from one place
Yeah.
to
They feel like
another, and
outsiders,
they feel
right?
like outsides. And it feels like Lost Boys too. Like if you ever watch Lost Boys, it has this very 80s horror vibe to it, but but shown in a more grounded approach. I did not expect to love this story so much. I truly did. It was a fantastic film, and it just says a lot about Luca as a director, because his last horror he did was Superia, or Superia. I believe it's based off like a remake
It's a
of an
remake, I
Italian
believe.
horror. Yeah, and that was interesting. And now we go into this story where it's based off a book, but now his own look into this world, and he does a fantastic job. It's Taylor Russell's performance is probably breathtakingly unsettling. That's what I wrote in my tweet. It's You see this, there's this feeling of hatred in what she does, but she needs to do it. And it also this animalistic vibe that you get from her, and it's super scary. There are scary parts to these characters, and you interact with scary people. I gotta say, Michael Stuhlbarg, is that his name? Michael
Yep.
Stuhlbarg. His character, my gosh, if I like meeting him, I would just run away, just not even wanting to meet him. He seems like that, like a hillbilly from the forest that you just do not want to interact
Might
with.
even
And then you
character
got,
like in Red Dead.
yeah,
You
Yeah.
see
yes,
one of like
yes,
the brothers like that you'd come across.
yes, 100%. I don't know if that played a huge,
The O'Driscoll brothers, yeah.
yeah, I don't know if that played a huge factor in creating that character, but it really reminded me of that Red Dead, those two brothers.
Yeah.
Mark Rylance, fantastic, like one of his
He
best
is amazing
performances.
in this movie, yeah.
Sully is Dully. That's all I remember.
Mm.
Sully's never Dully, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, this guy's definitely never Dully. But everyone
Yeah.
who partake in it, Timothée Chalamet, I would say, is not the standout, which I liked about this film, because he always tends to be the standout, or people look at him as the standout in every role he does. He's not. I think Taylor Russell and Mark Rylance did a fantastic job building this relationship and this interesting character dynamic between the two. I would say Timothée Chalamet being this, he's there, he's around, he's good at what he does, but he didn't blow me away as much as those two actors and actresses did.
Yeah, I think like going into this movie, as we said, I had no idea what it was about. So when we were actually, we're put in that scene, we're seeing like the sensual moments between these two girls, and then it turns into what it does. This movie just like it pulls a rug out from under you. And I love that it did it because again, we've gotten some incredible horror films this year this film is up there, but it's weird to call it a horror film because it's not. It's scary. It's probably the scariest movie I've seen this year, but it's not scary in the sense of like Barbarian is scary or like Pearl is scary. It's so different, and it's in it's a category of its own, of its just grossness, and it's from its this gore and from the way it uses horror, but it very much is like a romantic drama that you're in, that these characters eat people. And Timothée Chalamet is another eater that um Taylor Russell's character meets along the way. But it really is a relationship with one another that is so strong, and it really did remind me of a film out of the '80s. Like it just had that feel to it, and I think they're so great together. They have such great chemistry with one another. And then as they go on their journey, and then we meet Mark Rylance's character, who is so unsettling. His voice, he has a very iconic voice. It's like a higher pitched, raspy voice. So you feel like he's like a safe character, and then because you've always seen him play like a good guy in his other films, and then you have him in this movie who is just he's haunting. Mark Rylance is haunting throughout this movie, and it's he's so fun to watch because he's so unpredictable. But I wasn't expecting to love this movie as much as I did. I thought it was so well made. I thought it was so great. When's the next time I'm going to watch it? I really don't know, because I'm like, it's a heavy movie to watch, but it's so well made, and it really is a movie that I've been thinking a lot about after watching it, and it's one that I'm going to be thinking about a lot at the end of the year when I'm thinking about movies that really stood out to me this year, which again, I did not anticipate it going in. And because of the line of work that we're in, the three of us, it's rare that we go into a movie not knowing what it's about, not knowing what the trailer was, or seeing a synopsis. Really, that only happens at like film festivals. So to have this experience, it was really fun. It was fun going into this and just kind of going on the ride of not knowing where it's going to go and not feeling safe, because I did not feel safe watching this movie at all. And the scenes where you do see them eating people, you see some of it for sure. There are some great directorial moments, some great blocking in this movie where they're eating like this older woman, and instead of focusing on that scene, it cuts to the room of the older woman, and you're just seeing her life in pictures from like frames that she has in the room. And I thought that was such a beautiful moment, because it's like, here is like the most animalistic thing a person can do, eating another animal, eating another human. And we're just focusing on the life of that person, that it's come down to this. It's really harrowing stuff. Like, it's a heavy movie. It really is a heavy movie, but it's also so beautiful. So that's why I'm just like, wow, like it's just staying with me.
I kept asking myself, especially that scene. It's like, if you when you die, would you rather be eaten or buried alive? Like, are you going to be able to sustain someone who actually needs the food? Like, because you're gonna decompose in the ground. At least these people can live without having to, you know, eat for many months or however it works with these eaters. But like, I know it sounds weird and it sounds like,
What situation were you thinking of yourself in,
oh, no,
by the
I'm
way?
just saying,
Like,
like,
you're like,
if I
you were like, would I
died,
rather be buried alive or eaten?
no, not
Can't they
buried
just go to
alive, like,
McDonald's? Can't
you're
they just
you're
go get food somewhere else?
no, you die, for instance.
Okay, I'm dead.
Okay.
Wouldn't you want someone to eat
No.
you so they can live?
Answer's no. The answer is no.
But hold on a second. Where are you that the other person can't eat something
Well,
else?
let's say
Like, are you on an island?
let's say you're an eater, Daniel, and I'm like, I get
Yeah.
injured and I die. And you're like, well,
Yeah.
you can eat me, so you can.
But why would I eat you? Okay, let's say I'm not an eater, though.
Okay, well,
Am I in a situation that I will die if I don't eat you for some
no,
reason?
no. I'm just saying, like, if I'm in a
No, man.
situation, like, I feel
No,
bad for these
the answer's
eaters.
gonna be no.
Because I'm just
Why do
gonna
you
go
feel
into
bad
No.
for cannibals? I don't get it. They're not good people.
But they have no choice. That's the whole thing. That's what
They
makes
do.
this movie.
They have a choice.
They can't control their
Anyone-
urges.
Anyone who eats anything in this world has a choice. Like, vegetarians have a choice. Meat eaters and carnivores have a choice. We all have a choice. We're
But not in
pro-choice
this
on
world.
This podcast.
Especially in the 80s. Didn't have choices in the 80s.
What? No, it's not that far away. You were born in the 80s. Dude, are you trying to like? Are you trying to like vouch for cannibalism? I'm so confused.
Absolutely not. I'm just
Absolutely.
saying, in this cannibal universe, the CU,
The United
the
States of
CU.
America,
I'm
1980.
trying to create the MCU, but with the cannibal in it. But
The
yeah, no, I'm
CCU.
just the CCU. I'm just saying, like, I know that part really hit me. It's like this poor woman, like her family, and you see these pictures of her
It's
life,
sad,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And
No, it's very
here
sad,
are
yeah.
these people eating you, but like at the end of the day, you're dead anyway, so might as well eat. Hungry, hungry hippo.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay,
I don't know
man.
about that.
Okay, I'm gonna be
Kick it over
thinking
to
about
me.
this conversation at the end of the year
I
too.
want to talk about the score in this movie. The score by
Please do
Trent
get us out
Reznor
of
and
here.
Atticus
Very
Ross.
good.
Just so damn good. And I think that is what also fed into my uncomfortable situation that I felt I was living in. Because it was as if the only way I can describe Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross is they were pulling me into this room that I didn't want to go into while my nails were scratching along the floorboards. Like it was
They probably recorded a sound of that too.
I'm 100% confident, Daniel, that that's exactly
Yeah.
what they did because the tension is insane. The way they raise the stakes in this movie is unreal. But man, like Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross hit it again. Like they don't miss. They never do miss. And again, this is another movie where this is a classic example. The movie is deeply unsettling, but it's hauntingly beautiful. And I think the standout for me, kind of like what you were saying there, Anthony, were Mark Rylance and Taylor Russell. I think again, Timothée Chalamet, he's always great in what he does, but in this movie, it's not that his performance is taking a backseat at all. It's his character really isn't the vessel that we're using to kind of get through the story. We're using Taylor Russell, and she's complicated. She's going through a lot, and I think in the opening sequence there's a moment where again we all feel safe. We have nothing cannibalistic has happened yet, but the red flag that occurred in my head was her dad locks her in her room, and her dad never was a character in the at least in the first 30 seconds we've seen him. He didn't come off as like, oh, I'm an abusive father, and again that isn't where the story's going. So when he locked her door, I was like, well, that's kind of weird. I wonder why. And then you find out. So yeah, this
Yeah.
lot of interesting and great things this movie did.
Let's get to our final recommendations. I'm gonna get things going. Uh, Again, this movie's a watch it for me, but it's also a watch it with the little asterisks of, hey, if gore and cannibalism stuff isn't your thing, if you have a hard time watching it, then you're not going to be able to watch this movie because this movie, as for as much as it is creatively hiding that, it does show it, and it can be very, very uncomfortable as we've described while watching it. But I think this is a great movie. I think this is one of the best films of the year, and I did not expect saying that going into this movie, which I think was really cool. It's beautiful, it's intense, it's harrowing, but it's a love story, and I think because you have such a beautiful visuals and great performances, it offsets the more twisted story that this movie deals with. And it's a watch it for me. I'm just really surprised of just how well made this movie is. I'm not surprised it coming from the director that it's coming from, but I'm surprised that a movie dealing with the subject matter that it's dealing with, bones and all, delivers. And it really is something that you should watch if you have the stomach for it. Anthony, I'm going to get you to go next.
I love this film. I this is not what I expected, but I coming out of it, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a surprise to me where the direction went in terms of this love story that becomes this horrific nightmare. But from beginning to end, this film consumes you. It is something that you kind of want to not look, but you have no choice. But you're almost pulled into watching it, and you want to know how it ends. And I think this film is one of those movies that will go down as a cult classic. I think a lot of people will enjoy it and will kind of come back to it later on. It's a fantastic movie, and I think you should go watch it for sure.
You gave the Natural Born Killers comparison, which I think has become like a cult classic, and
Yeah,
it's a very iconic movie of its time. And I think this movie is going to get that following as well too.
yeah.
Shahbaz, take us home.
I want to preface this by saying I have no issues with gore. Gore is great in movies. I think it's fantastic when it's used well. Zero issues that. I just have an issue with people eating people. I think that's it. That's the brass tacks of it all. Um, while I wasn't big on the subject matter, that's not what we talk about when we're trying to give a movie. I'm not trying to give that personal feeling about this movie. I'm trying to talk about what this movie is and how this movie was shot, how it's made, and how people will respond to it. And I think people will love what they see with Bones and All if they can get past what the subject is, if they can talk about this as just the movie that it is, because it's shot beautifully, the beautiful score, amazing acting, and just the performances that you're kind of being guided through will absolutely take you on a journey no matter what this movie is about. And because of that, this movie is a watch it.
The opening scene of this film alone, I think, created a new core memory for me, and it is up there with this is how you start a movie. And there's a few movies that do this amazing, that do this right. There is a scene that we were talking about, that party scene, that really sets the tone for what this movie is. And I think from that point on, you're going for a ride for sure. As always, you could catch a brand new episode of the Movie Podcast every single Monday. And watch out throughout the week for our reviews, just like this one, on all the latest movies and series. I want to say thank you to our friends who are at Warner Brothers again for inviting us to watch this movie. I think it surprised all of us, as you could hear from us talking about it for the last 30 minutes. But yeah, what a ride it was. Make sure you're following us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Letterboxd at The Movie Podcast. Join us on Discord. And of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment below if you're looking forward to this movie, if you plan on checking it out. If you've watched it already, leave a comment right into the show. We'd want to hear from you. This is the type of movie that I think we really want to hear people's opinions on. So I'm really looking forward to hearing more once this film does release on November 23rd. So if you're looking forward to it in theaters, go check it out. Yeah, we have a lot going on here right now on the Movie Podcast. It's a busy time. Check out all of our interviews and our reviews that we have been going up on the Movie Podcast feed. And like I said, make sure you're following us on social media. You don't want to miss anything that we're doing at the Movie Podcast. So that was this time with the Movie Podcast, and we'll see you next.